into introduction. Most of the issue in the kitchen, kashrut problem, involve foods or utensils of meat and dairy that touch or mix with each other. In order to recognize when this is a problem, one needs to understand the underlying principle. The basic question is always, was the taste from one food or pot transmitted to the food or pot of another type? In this chapter, we will discuss what conditions are necessary for a taste to be transmitted from one substance to another. Okay, so let's try to understand what it says here. So actually, let's read it again, and we're going to explain line by line exactly what it says here. We're going to it. Most of the issues in the kitchen kashrut problem involve foods and utensils of meat and dairy that touch or mix with each other. So up to now, whatever we said was about non-kosher foods. So no normal person, let's say, not going to have non-kosher foods. As we said before, for example, if you're going to invite some people, they're not non-Jewish, and let's say they have to stay in your house for whatever reason, right? The house of your co-worker burned down, and there is nobody like who can host this co-worker, so you want to like host this co-worker for a few days. So you said, don't bring any food, whatever you like, eat outside, don't bring leftovers, right? While you're in my house, you have to respect my laws. That's the law, right? And so this non-kosher food is out, right? It's out of the question. Of course, you must know, like it's only with when interacting with other people. Now, like the problem is narrowing much less, right? To what to meat and milk together. Meat, like milk, is allowed. Dairy foods are allowed. Meat foods are allowed. There is no problem. So, what is the problem? The problem when they mix together. In order to recognize when there is a problem, one needs to understand the underlying principles. So as we said yesterday, actually, so in our classes, we always try to give the big picture. So if you have a big picture, it's easy for you to understand like why all of these details matter. Otherwise, like when you learn like separate things, I mean, you understand, but like you would not derive one thing from another. Okay. The basic question is always, was the taste from one food or pot transmitted to the food or pot of another type? That's the most important question. So, and we're going to see if it was cold, there is no transmitting of the taste. I'm just give you like a little preview. When it's hot, so we have to understand how hot, how long this spoon was in this environment. Was it dairy? Was it meat? Right? How are we going to use it? And so we care about only meat and the milk mixed, right, or the dairy products, and was the food transferred from one to another into the food or into utensils? It's not always the same. Okay, continue. In this chapter, we'll discuss what conditions are necessary for the taste to be transmitted from one substance to another. So now he said, he changed the language a little, which is very smart. He said substance. Substance mean it could mean the dish, or substance could mean even the walls of the utensils. It's not. It's a little different laws. Continue. When two foods come into physical contact, taste cannot be completely transmitted from one to another unless two conditions are met. Okay. A, it must be at the medium through which the taste can be transmitted. Okay, we're going to explain. The taste can be transmitted through only through a liquid or a fatty medium. Number one. In addition, B, the foods must be induced to infuse and absorb taste through that medium. Among the conditions that bring about infusion of taste is the heat, salting, and soaking. Okay, so let's stop here. We're going to the beginning of a paragraph and try to understand what it says here. When the two foods come into physical contact, and I'm I'm not sure why he's narrowing that. Not always the physical contact. Contact is, we would say, even if they were baked in the same stove, right? And like aroma from one can go to another. It's not, there was no physical contact. But let's see. When two foods come into physical contact, taste cannot be completely transmitted from one to the other unless two conditions are met. So we care about the taste of one going into the other. Right? That's main point. Mixture of the taste, because mix of milk and meat is forbidden. That's the main point. There must be a medium through which taste is transmitted. So mediums, he underlined the medium. There must be a medium. So if two dried foods, two dry foods, so you put one on top of the other, you remove one, like from another. Let's say, what would be the example? I don't know, like you have a piece of bread, you have a tomato, you put bread on top of the tomato, you remove the bread, there is no taste of the tomato on the bread, and same is tomato, like nothing, right? But if something is wet, that's a different story, right? Taste can be transmitted thoroughly only through a liquid or fatty medium. So through the dry, they do not usually transmit, right? Fatty medium, like meat, right, or others, and liquid. And second condition, in addition, B, the foods must be induced to infuse and absorb the taste through that medium. So the food must be able to receive the taste. Maybe there is medium, but is food ready to receive the taste? Or also very interesting, among the conditions that bring about the infusion of taste are heat. So through the heat, like one, as we explained actually in the laws of Shabbos. So one surface is going to like cook another surface. And I guess that's what it is. Like when they eat, when they do a cheeseburger, right? So the meat is hot, and they put a cold cheese, and the cheese start melting. Right? That means that this surface of the meat cooking the cheese. Okay, so it's first through the heat, right? To the heat, salting. When you salt something, it's actually cooking. According to Halachah, it's cooking. For example, raw fish, right? So fish is not edible unless you I don't know, from these cultures, from Eastern culture, they eat raw fish, from Japanese or something, right? Or Chinese, right? I think they eat, some of them eat raw fish. Not all of the raw fish, but okay, whatever they eat. There is no problem. So, but for other people, the raw fish is not so edible. So, but if you salt it even after a few hours, like in some, I have a student. They asked me a question, so I was not sure. I was not sure. So they said whatever the process they use, and they say in 2 hours, like 1.5 2 hours, the fish is ready. You can eat. So completely raw fish, whatever they salt, this and that, spices, whatever they do. So you can eat. Okay, no problem. So it is for sure it's cooking, right? So for sure taste is going from one to another. And what's soaking? So soaking for sure can affect, it depends how long, but soaking can affect the vessel for sure. Or they soak together. So soaking meaning in cold water. That does not have to be hot water, even in cold water. Continue. In this chapter, so it's only introduction. So the author is painting like a roadmap, all of these things that we're going to discuss. There are no details yet. In this chapter, we'll discuss two issues. The medium that enables the transmission, for example, liquid, and the conditions that cause the taste transmitted, for example, heat. These halachas relate to the non-kosher foods that comes in contact with kosher foods and transmit non-kosher taste to the kosher foods. More relevant to the kosher home, these halachas relate to meat and dairy foods that come in contact and transmit taste into one another to produce basar v'chalav. Basar is meat, v'chalav is milk, right? Basar v'chalav. Or to pare foods that come into contact with either meat or dairy, absorb the taste, and thereby become meat in double quotes and dairy is double quotes. So let's read this from the beginning, and we're going to explain because it's a lot to explain here. So one more time, in this chapter we'll discuss two issues: the medium, right, that enable transmission, for example, liquid, through which liquids and through which fatty environments it's going to transmit, right? And a condition that causes the transmission, for example, heat or salt and others, right? So through which medium and what is going to help, right? Heat or others. This halacha relates to non-kosher food that comes in contact with the kosher foods, right? So even as we said, most likely if you don't have strangers in your house, it's only you and the family and everybody's kosher, there is no problem. So the only issues you would have only with meat and dairy foods. That's it, on one hand. On another hand, exactly the same laws apply to the non-kosher foods, like with non-kosher foods, with kosher foods. Let's say you had a pot that is not kosher for whatever reason, right? Or it's part of that was used yesterday, let's say, or yesterday or this morning was used for a dairy, and now you cooked meat, right? Are you allowed to eat meat, or you eat or you cook spaghetti? Are you allowed to eat the spaghetti with meat or with cheese? Like what to do? Okay. This halacha relates to non-kosher foods that comes in contact with the kosher foods and transmit non-kosher taste to the kosher foods. That's the second part. So as we said, it's all even though the two different scenarios, but conditions they apply to it is exactly the same. Exactly the same. More relevant to the kosher home. These halachas relate to meat and dairy foods, as we said, that comes in contact and transmit taste into one another. That's the issue. To produce basar v'chalav. So this mixture, meat and dairy, is forbidden. Or to pare food that come into contact with either meat or dairy. So meaning the pare food, meaning it's like we said, our spaghetti. If you just finished, let's say you just finished cooking your stew, right? And now you want to do spaghetti. So you pour your stew out in some other containers for storage, and now you want this pot to use for spaghetti. Even you washed it well with the soap. It's even dried, no problem. And now you want to eat. So the question: can you eat this spaghetti with cheese? Okay. So are they still paref or not? Okay, that's the issue, right? So this spaghetti, so we know it's not paref. It's for sure it's meat, even though there is no meat, it does not taste like meat, but meat in double quotes, halachically meat. So absorb the taste and thereby become meat or dairy food.